Charles Oliveira looked like a new fighter at UFC 309. He fucking showed out. He showed out. Anybody who says that fight was close is straight up blind. Um, Charles really proved himself, and he proved everybody wrong. What everybody's been saying on YouTube, on Twitter, all over social medias, that Charles can't wrestle. Charles has a wrestling problem. Well, he put that shit on display the other night. He put it on display. He showed that he has offensive wrestling, and he proved that he honestly deserves that title shot. That fight was amazing. Of course, Charles did not get the finish, but so many fun scrambles. Dominant positioning from Charles. He used his strong wrestling that we know he has. Like I know he has. Everybody knows he has. He just didn't use it against Sarukian. He didn't use it against Makhachev. But not last night, 2 nights ago. What am I saying? Charles proved that he can use that wrestling. He can push the pace, and he did that. He brought Michael Chandler down so many times. If it weren't for all the fence grabs, I guarantee Charles would have gotten that submission. Um, but he proved that he can move on and use that wrestling to his advantage. If he did that against Sarukian when he was able to get back up and he used his offensive wrestling, he could have won that fight. Makhachev was a bit of a different situation, but I think if there is a rematch versus Charles and Makhachev, um, it would be a lot closer than the first one. Guaranteed a lot closer than the first one. Of course, Islam has evolved. Charles has evolved. They both evolved. But that fight with Charles this past weekend was just a sign that he took what everybody was saying and he proved that he is a good wrestler and he's the best all around lightweight, all best well rounded lightweight in this year. This year, in my opinion, I know I'm a Charles Glazer. I'll be honest, I know I'm a Charles Glazer. I love yapping about Charles, but he looked so well rounded in his fight against Chandler. He still looked amazing against Arman Sarukian, but he didn't mix in the wrestling. Once he mixes in the wrestling, mixes in his amazing striking, his tight guard. He kept his guard super tight. There was only one point in that fight where he let his guard down and Chandler capitalized, and that was in the fifth round, which he gave us a bit of a jump scare, but he kept it clean. He kept it tight. He mixed in everything that he had to mix in to get that dominant decision. That was dominance, pure dominance. Um, and I didn't doubt him for a second. I just wasn't sure if he was going to mix in that wrestling. And he fought a guy in Chandler who is about the same frame, same build as Arman Sarukian. And I truly think that if it was a rematch Sarukian Charles, and he did used what he did the other night to Chandler against Arman Sarukian, he would win that fight. I think he would win that fight in a dominant fashion. Obviously Arman Sarukian's wrestling is top notch, but people forget that Michael Chandler was an All-American wrestler. He's an All-American wrestler. He's been wrestling his entire life. He's been in a training camp for 2 years. Obviously, he had a bit of rust coming into this fight against Charles, but Charles showed that he's got strong wrestling, strong wrestling. Obviously, we know he's got the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the UFC, most submissions in the UFC. That just shows his levels in BJJ. But people doubted his wrestling. I even doubted his wrestling at times because against Arman, that fight was rough to watch when you saw that Charles could have, he could have pushed the pace more in the wrestling department, and he could have gone to his feet and clinched up against the fence with Arman and taken him down. But he proved against Chandler that he can do that and he will do that moving forward. At least that's the hope. That's what we want, obviously. And with that dominant decision over Chandler, you have to think this guy gets a title shot. I hope he gets a title shot. Obviously, it would be against Islam or Arman. We're gonna see when that fight is even scheduled. I don't know when it's gonna be scheduled, but hopefully in the near next few months, we'd have to think. Charles said he'll be there in January. I think that's when the fight is going to be. January, February, he'll be sitting front row and he'll be ready to take on the winner. And I hope he does. I think he'll be much better in the rematch against one of those two guys. I think he's going to be mixing everything together. He's going to be learning from his mistakes from the last fights, and he's going to be able to show that he still deserves that title. He deserves that title, man. I couldn't have been happier to see him win. I think everybody needed this win from Charles. We had some rough losses this year. Robert Whittaker sub, Max Holloway knockout, Justin Gaethje obviously got knocked out by Max Holloway. Dustin Poirier subbed by Islam. Um, Insane losses in the lightweight division and other divisions, of course. A lot of favorites lost. So yeah, it was a rough year. It was nice to see Oliveira get that win. I think everybody was super happy to see him get that win, and I can't wait to see what's next for him. Honestly, we got lots of fun things for Oliveira, lots of fun matchups for Oliveira. Even if he doesn't get that title shot, there's the Max Holloway rematch, which would be amazing for the BMF. That would be an amazing fight. I think Max Holloway versus Oliveira would be like potential fight of the year, honestly. Um, or Oliveira versus Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's trying to copy that blonde hair. Well, they can run it up. They can run it. That would be a badass fight. That would be a badass fight. Um, there's a potential of Oliveira versus Moicano. If Moicano jumps up the rankings a bit more, that would be a fun fight. A lot of matchups for Oliveira, a lot of possible matchups. I do think he deserves that title shot though. He lost to Islam by sub, then destroyed Beneil Dariush off his win streak, and then he barely lost the split to Armin. It could have gone either way. I do think Armin did win that fight. I think he deserved that win. He did the more damage, but Charles had a lot of submission attempts, and I would have loved to see him mix up the wrestling more. And if it was a 5-rounder, it would have been really interesting to see what happened in round 4 and 5 in those championship rounds, honestly. But nonetheless, then we got Charles that just won against Chandler. So he's what is he? 2, 3-5 in his last 5. Yeah, so he's only lost to Islam and Armin, and the Armin fight was super close. I think this guy truly deserves the title shot. If he doesn't get it, the next guy he beats, he definitely gets title shot. And I don't think anybody can stop Charles right now. Besides potentially Islam and Armin. I mean anybody below Charles in the rankings. I don't think anybody beats him. Um, you know, and I think he's really, really worked on his wrestling. He's worked on everything to mix it all up perfectly. I think he's got more motivation than ever. He seems super motivated. He still enjoys the sport. He loves the sport, and we're gonna see an evolved Charles in moving on in the future. I think he's truly evolved. He's truly focused on MMA, and he wants to win and get that title back. And I'd love to see him get that title back. I think everybody would love to see another Charles title run, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll see what happens. But I just want to talk about how Charles has evolved his game, how he's gotten better this year, and I seriously think that he's changed some things, and he's definitely evolved his wrestling, and he just looked crisp the other night. He really took minimal damage besides those illegal blows to the back of the head, those disgusting, despicable legal blows to the back of the head. Besides that, he took minimum damage against a dangerous, dangerous Chandler. He dominated. He dominated seriously. Up until that 5th round where it was close, he dominated 1 through 4. Easy stuff. So I can't wait to see the future for Charles, and I really hope he gets that title shot. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment. Who you guys want to see Charles fight next? Subscribe for more videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you.